Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our beer tasting, and yes, indeed, Eric, it has been a week. For anyone who really wants to know, I had a very mild bicycle accident on Sunday, so I'm going to cast for the next few weeks. So this is going to be. Oh, look, I need to turn my sound off. That's fun. There we go. That's a bit of a thing. 6 weeks at least. But we're not here to talk about that necessarily. We'll get into that later. It's my pleasure to introduce Grant Flagg of Copper and Theory Beer Imports. He's the importer for Yellow Dog into Alberta. Hello, Grant. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, it's a pleasure.
Yeah. So I know Yellow Dog predominantly as a maker of IPAs, and we obviously have IPAs in front of us now. But I know we've had a coconut porter or a coconut stout through the market before. They obviously do other things, but they tend to sell out before we really see them in the market too long. It must be a terrible burden to have a brewery that sells out right away like that. Also, cool dog.
Thank you so much. Yes, he's not yellow, but thematically
yellow.
Relevant still, I think. No.
So tell us about Yellow Dog. Now, they're out of Port Moody, just like Twin Sails and just like Moody Ales, which kind of makes Port Moody sound like an awesome place to live, having three phenomenal breweries
Absolutely.
like that in a fairly small city. Let's talk about a brief introduction of Yellow Dog, your history with them, as well as kind of the abridged history of the brewery in general.
Yeah, absolutely. So Yellow Dog is the project of Mike and Melinda Coghill. They're the owners and the people who originally opened the brewery. That was back in 2014. They actually were in Vancouver, and they were thinking about raising a family, and they didn't really want to do it in the heart of downtown Vancouver. So they ended up moving out to Port Moody in order to do that. Now, at the same time that they were looking to open, actually, during the process, they found out that a second brewery, Moody Ales, was actually looking to open on the same road at the same time. So Yellow Dog opened in about August of 2014, and Moody opened up in October. Yellow Dog didn't set out to be exactly like a IPA brewery, but certainly that is a bit of a perception for them. Certainly they do have a great reputation with stouts and dark beers, and they have a foeder program and barreling program underway right now as well. Hopefully we'll be seeing some of those more into the markets over time. But primarily at this moment, it's just these four core beers that we're drinking through today.
Perfect. Just going to cut you off there. So everybody knows, I'm a little bit out of it today. I'm muddling through. We're going to start with the Chase My Tail Pale Ale. Grant and I picked the order off camera just before we started here. So let's start out with this. This is a little darker pale ale than we've been used to on the show lately. We've been doing a lot of, very, very pale in color pale ales, and we've done some very, very cloudy ones. This is a bit of an unusual rare bird for us here. It's actually kind of the color of what I'd associate with an English bitter, and it's actually not hopelessly cloudy. I'm sure the next one will be, but that's all right. Let's get into this. This is a little more traditional style, perhaps, of a West Coast pale, or even maybe a little more close to an English pale than we've seen in a long time on the show. Take us through this one.
Yeah, so this one, that's really just a flagship offering for the brewery. They're just really looking for that West Coast note, getting a little bit of tropical fruit, a little bit of resin through it. You're noting on that kind of coppery color earlier on it. They really do, in a lot of their beers, they want to support the profile with well-balanced malts as well. So in this guy, we are seeing that kind of like a toasted malt through it to really support that fruit profile.
Beautiful. And I think that always adds just a nice kind of fruitiness underneath the hops that actually supports it. It gives it more of a bittersweet rather than just that traditional pale, that traditional nouveau pale and bitter style. So tell me a little bit about Copper and Theory. I'm familiar with you, but as you said off air, nobody knows who importers are and what we do. So tell me a little bit about what Copper and Theory is and what you're bringing into Alberta that people should be excited about, what they might be familiar with and what they might not.
So yeah, Copper and Theory, the agency is about 10 years old now. It started just in Vancouver as Rain City Brands, actually, as the project of a guy named Adam Henderson. And through time, it was kind of just I don't want to say a bit of a passion project, but a learning experience so we could look at other aspects of the market as well, and really kind of grew and got away from them a little bit and expanded into Alberta. In BC, we do a few different brands than we do in Alberta here. In Alberta, we're focused primarily on doing BC brands, and so also for our agency, we're bringing in breweries like Daggerrod Brewing, Four Winds, Hoyne Brewing, and a whole bunch of other great BC breweries.
We actually did a bit of a profile on Four Winds. We did a bit of a Battle of BC of a IPA
The-
and sour, both from Four Winds and from Phillips.
Juxtaposed Nectarus, yeah.
That was a really fun one. That Nectarus is just one of my favorite beers in the whole shop, and it continues to do just stupidly well for us. I don't really know if I love the boxes. I kind of feel like they could just go with the snap rings and save a lot of pollution, but what fine in boxes is great.
Well, I think there have been issues with the actual materials for how recyclable they are. And so these, I think, are more recyclable with the boxes than just the pack text, because even as it stands, like the city of Calgary won't actually recycle the 4-pack toppers.
Really?
For a lot of these breweries. Yeah, and so we're having to, a lot of people are just returning them back to the bottle shops so that they can send it back to the brewery or use it in store, or even just taking it back to the brewery.
For a long time, because, for example, next week we're doing an OT beer, and they're still using the old Fish Killer 4-pack rings. So to make our mix fours, we're reusing the pack text for that. But yeah,
Fantastic.
I don't like those rings, the old style rings, because as I'm sure you're aware, cans fall out of them all the damn time, and you can't really ever put them back. They get stretched out. Yeah, we're getting a bit off topic, but that's kind of our style around here, so we'll just run with it.
Yeah, as those pack texts became popular, though, I mean, you're absolutely correct.
Apparently.
That for the 6-pack rings, people were like, they're falling out all the time. But with the pack text, when they first started getting popular, nobody knew how to get the beers out of the pack text.
Oh, I know. There's someone here, Mike, who continually tears tears open cans, getting them out of the pack text. So I have no idea how he manages to do it on the regular, but he does. So that's a fun thing. So this style of West Coast Pale, I think of this as being kind of in that Sierra Nevada Pale Ale mold. I think it's a little more aromatic than, say, a Sierra Nevada would be, but I don't know. I like these old school West Coast Pales. I think one of my favorite beers we've done in the tasting so far is still the Cabin Retro Spectrum, but I actually like this a little better because it balances out that sweetness, it balances out the maltiness. It's really well rounded.
What I find with, as I touched upon earlier, what Yellow Dog tends to do very well across all their brands, or across all the beers, is they want to bring a sense of balance to everything that they're doing. So we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to the Hazy IPA. But this is just crisp, clean, classic, and I don't think this is gonna hurt anybody's sensibilities by any stretch. Just a delicious, clean beer.
I sure hope Scotty's watching, because we kind of did this for him, because I think he's got to be the biggest Yellow Dog fan south of Calgary, because it doesn't matter what I bring in. I get 9 new establishment beers. It's like, oh, but did you get anything from Yellow Dog? No, I didn't, because it's all sold out again. And even these, I ordered the beers. I ordered 2 flats of each for the tasting. And I was like, you know what? I better order a little more. So I went to order another 2 of everything and got nothing. They already are all gone. Are you finding that with Yellow Dog? I know you're bringing in smaller amounts because you want the IPAs to turn over so they don't go stale. But are they limiting you? Is that the limiting factor with Yellow Dog? Is you just can't get as much as you want?
As it stands right now, I mean, certainly we do want the IPAs to be going as fresh as possible, so people are having the best experience with the beers. But as it stands right now, I mean, the Lower Mainland in BC is going to always be the first priority for Yellow Dog, and I can't begrudge them that at all.
No.
And so right now, as they're kind of having the pandemic surge and catching back up on their production limits or on their production capacity, we are still catching up on stock for Alberta. So all that means right now is that we just get fresher Yellow Dog, which is kind of great.
Which is pretty great, yeah. Speaking of which, we've got the 4 right here. What are we seeing from Yellow Dog in the next little while? Anything else exciting that you can talk about, or does this have to remain trade secrets?
It's all trade secrets as it stands, but that'll also kind of all change as they find out what they are able to send to Alberta. So we'll kind of see down the line. We can probably expect to see some of the porters as the fall comes back around. So you can probably expect to see probably the coconut porter again.
I really like that beer.
Mm-hmm.
I just like coconut anything, and yeah, the coconut porter from Yellow Dog is pretty darn spectacular. So has this been a core beer probably for Yellow Dog since 2014? Was this a launch beer for them? Because this is kind of a staple style. I would expect this to have been a launch beer.
Absolutely. If it wasn't a launch beer for them, it's at least been around for a long time. The actual story behind this is that the reason that the brewery is named Yellow Dog is for Mike and Melinda's Yellow Dog, whose name was Chase.
Oh.
And so this core beer for them is named after their dog.
Well, that's lovely. And I noticed that probably, I assume these are the core beers, are the ones that actually have the full wraps on the cans, and then the seasonal is probably the Squirrel Chaser because it's got the just the stick-on label here. Or is this just a new beer to
Squirrel
the...
Chaser, it's the newest beer to the lineup. We have been seeing it full time for, I want to say, about a year in Alberta, without any serious droughts on stock for it. So I expect that it will continue to be full time until it isn't.
Okay. I had a question coming in from Julie. What's the name of the coconut porter?
The coconut porter, oh gosh, that one was...
Is it the Shake-a-Paw? No.
Shake-a-Paw. That was that one.
Okay.
Was the Shake-a-Paw the smoked porter? I always get some of them backwards.
Yeah. No, I know, especially when it's been almost a year since we've seen them.
Mm-hmm. I can find that answer right quick.
Sure. While you're looking that up, let's all get the Squirrel Chaser in our glasses, the Hazy Pale Ale.
Oh, there's a Chase. All right.
Chew Toy, that was the one.
Chew Toy, there we go.
Chew Toy is the coconut porter.
Bring Chase up on the window here.
I'm bringing up Chase, all right.
I'm going to bring up Chase.
Cool. So Squirrel Chaser is the newest of the beers, at least for Alberta anyway. Tell me a little bit about the Hazy IPA versus the classic West Coast style.
I
noticed
so the hazy beers kind of came out of the East Coast as a reaction to the Alchemist Heady Toppers, kind of the big classic one out of the East. What these are meant to be doing is really expressing a strong aromatic component and flavor component rather than the bittering component of the hops. And so really in this one, this one does have a bit of a higher bitterness to it, but all of it's strictly for the purposes of balance. And so yeah, just strong aromatics. In these we might get more, or with this one we will get more tropical and stone fruit.
I think that jumps out at you right away. I think you were dead right that we had to go in this direction, which is interesting because we're going West Coast into East and then East Coast back to West with the next round, which I think is interesting. We'll get to that when we get to it, but yeah. Now, what else do people have? What else will folks seen in the market other than Four Winds and Yellow Dog from you? Sorry, my brain is really not with it today. I apologize, everyone. It's been a really bad week. My brain, normally I have 8 questions just ready to go and things I want to talk about. Here it's just yes, let's just drink beer. Let's have some beers.
So yeah, for us, other things that we're bringing in, I already mentioned Daggerod, Four Winds, and Hoyne. Other breweries that we're bringing in right now are Moody Ales. Notably right now, the big popular one from them in Alberta is the Lavender Sour.
Yes, we had that on for Weird Beers, actually. Yeah, and then the Flamingos as well, which I really like.
Absolutely. Oh, just such delightful beers. And then Strange Fellows out of Vancouver is another one that we're bringing in right now. And Tofino would be Tofino from Tofino is the last one.
Tell me about Strange Fellows. I haven't seen them before and certainly haven't tasted them yet. So something that we should definitely be looking into?
I'm personally just a huge fan of Strange Fellows. I think what they're doing is just brilliant. Their core beers, I find, are kind of similar to this, very, very well balanced. Most of them are about 4.5%. So they're in this place where I find, at least if I buy a 4-pack of it, as soon as I crack into that first one, I am driven to just drink the rest of the pack because they are so drinkable and sessionable.
Wonderful. So what say you, comments? Let's get some in from you because I need your help today because I am not 100% with it. So yes, if you've noticed, I haven't really been in the store at all this week. I was here Monday, which went badly. Yeah, that is nice, isn't it? I really like how rich and kind of almost weighty that first beer is. It's got some.
Oh, I got a picture of Chase here.
Oh, right. You said you had a picture of Chase
Here's
for us.
Chase. Okay, it's coming up. It's gonna just get overlaid over top of all y'all. Here we go. There it is. Now you two can't see it.
We can't see it. Well, I'll see it. I'll see it in a minute. I'll see it in about 30 seconds after the delay.
Good looking dog. Good looking dog.
Good looking dog.
I mean, the logo itself is the outline of Chase, and then I think they've got a. Yes, that's supposed to be kind of a relief of Chase himself.
That's nice.
That is nice. Oh, there we go. That's a handsome boy.
Handsome boy.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm a really huge fan of that. Like, is that something we're going to be getting? Are all of these going to be regular imports as long as they're kind of for the next little while at least?
We're going to have them in stock as full time as possible. This one, I just think it's so nice. I mean, I get huge pineapple and mango, and almost a bit of a weirder tasting note, almost like a peach strudel idea.
Okay, I'm going to have to go back and try and find that one.
My end. And then just this pillowy, delightful mouthfeel to it, and just that creeping up bitterness on the finish, but not too out of balance at all.
Some of the East Coast IPAs and pales can come off almost chalky or powdery sometimes, and I don't get any of that out of this. Maybe that's a question of freshness, but I find with this, like, the fruit's right there, it's accessible. The alcohol, it should be at 5.2 well in the background. It's not drying, it's just lush and fruity and easy to drink. This is the style of, like, hoppy beers that kind of gets people immediately into hoppy beers, in my opinion. I really like this style.
Yeah, the amount of people that I get to that tell me, oh, I'm not an IPA fan, and then I get them to try High Five, and they go, oh wow, that's delightful. It's outstanding.
Nice. Eric asks, are all the breweries in Port Moody kind of getting along? Do they do a lot of collaborations, or is it just blood war? No one can stand each other.
No, absolutely. They're actually very friendly with each other. I mean, obviously, when Yellow Dog and Moody Ales opened, there was a bit of like apprehension at first, like, well, these guys are like doing the same thing that we're trying to do at the same time. Is there room for that? But then they opened, and it turned out that there was. And then the third brewery to open up on Brewers Row was Twin Sails, and they kind of said like, okay, well, I think that there's still room. And then Parkside came after that, and eventually they all just became friends. And they actually do an annual collaboration between all the Port Moody breweries, kind of to support. They want to have an identity together rather than being the Port Moody brewery. They just want it to be the breweries. So there is a lot of friendship and love between all the breweries.
And actually, at this point, probably never going to see that seasonal out here, the collab beer.
Likely not.
Yeah, didn't think so. But I thought I'd ask.
But and now at this point, I think there's 5 or 6 breweries on in Port Moody.
Oh wow, that's insane. How many people live in Port Moody?
I'm not actually sure what the population is. I can also pull that answer up pretty quick for you here.
Thank you, Google. You're really bailing us out today. I think we'll move on for the crowd into the High Five Hazy IPA here.
33,000.
Oh, wow. That is not a big city for 6 breweries. And like,
but
of the ones I've had, like some pretty spectacular breweries as well.
In Vancouver, though, so
I suppose that's fair.
Is it not?
Is it large enough population?
Sorry, I'm just going.
2014 is the founding date for Yellow Dog, which for Alberta would make it like one of the great granddaddies of like Alberta brewing. That's like, well, the second wave, the blind man and forward wave. Like 2014 is kind of the founding date for interesting Alberta craft beer, and that's not to slag on Alley Cat or Wild Rose or Village. I will absolutely slag on Big Rock because it's easy and fun and just such a big target. But no, I want to rip on anybody who was around pre-2014, but at least for the Alberta craft beer scene, I think it's kind of the founding of Blind Men and then everything forward from there, which is in 2014. So I guess for BC side, 2014 is probably a relative newcomer, but yeah, for Alberta, that'd be getting up to being part of the old guard.
Well, there's a fantastic podcast called Beer Life, which is from Jordan Foss, who's one of the founders of Steel and Oak.
Okay.
And so he interviews a lot of people around, and to hear him talk about it, for BC, one of the big waves of influx of breweries is 2013. There's a little, like, I think they're counting it. There's like, I couldn't be able to remember what the number is, but he talks about how many breweries opened up in 2013, and that was like Four Winds and Yellow Dog and Powell and just all these other breweries.
Oh yeah, Powell. I like their beer. Actually, I haven't tasted one in forever, but I like Powell Brewing.
They're not coming out to Alberta anymore, unfortunately.
Oh, that's a bloody tragedy. Okay, so let us talk about the High Five. Obviously, more than just a bigger version of the Squirrel Chaser, because it's got a little more bitterness, it's got a little more richness, it's got more body, and I find the fruit profile changes. I get more stone fruit and a little less of the tropical fruit. I don't get as much kind of pineapple and things. I get more peaches into nectarines, even into maybe mangoes. I I think it's just a little sweeter style. I don't know if that's the alcohol, if that's the malt bill. Why don't you talk us through this one?
So yeah, I am a really big fan of High Five. This one actually, interestingly, started as summer seasonal a couple of years ago, and then they just found that they just had to keep on brewing it full time in order to keep up with the demand, and so it became a core beer after that. To me, I think that it's such a brilliant beer. At the time, a lot of unbalanced hazy IPAs were coming out.
Yes, I think that's fair.
The hops were just 100% aromatic and fruity hops, which led to these. If we're talking about wine, it would be like a wine with no acid. It would be just flabby, whereas this has enough bitterness on the back end for structure to really kind of bind those fruity dry hops together. And I think it's just incredibly well balanced, and I will drink 7 of these in a sitting. I'm such a big fan.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that. And yeah, mango, I think I agree. And peachiness feels creamier. Yeah, why the heck are they hazy, Craig asks? We have covered this a little bit. It's actually a protein thing, but I'll let you walk us through that, because honestly, it's just not top of mind for me at the minute.
No, yeah, you pretty much covered it there. There are certain ingredients that you can use in brewing that will introduce more protein, and that protein, you can filter out a portion of it effectively, but not all of it. So if you use enough oats or wheat or things like that, it will get that protein, and that's the haze to it. And what that practically does is, since there's that more material in it, it gets that softer body on the palate.
Now, to me, I really like the hazy style, because we saw kind of inklings of this with kind of the white IPA movement with beers like Dishu's Chainbreaker or Phillips Electric Unicorn. And they were blending in a high degree of wheat, kind of going with the Belgian wit or German Hefeweizen base, and then hopping the ever-loving piss out of it to create a white IPA. And those ended up really a huge catch bag of different styles, because you could start with anything from an American wheat to a Belgian wit to, if you really wanted to, you could do a Belgian triple and call it a double white IPA. I like the consistency we're seeing with the hazies. It's taking a lot of the good ideas, the higher protein content, the richness, the additional malt complexity that was coming from those white IPAs, and it's getting rid of that, for some people, including myself, often clovey Belgian yeast character. I've really gotten to a place now, and this is just me. If you're a huge Belgian nut, feel free to just crucify me here in a second, but I'm so tired of that like traditional like Trappist or Belgian yeast character. I like the fact that that's kind of not present with the hazies. It's got some of that complexity without adding in that Belgian yeast character. And I realized that wasn't a question. I just kind of rambled on for 30 seconds.
No, just statements about your preferences in beer, which is all good. I think we're seeing a bit of so generally when we're talking about hazy IPAs, the famous and popular yeast strain that everybody uses is called London Ale 3, or a variant thereof. And so that effectively what's happening there is when it's fermenting, it drops out sooner, and so it doesn't kind of ferment as fully. For my tastes, and that's very popular and it's great, absolutely. For my taste, I'm starting to shift into a point where I'd prefer you do a similar type of thing, but then use the Chico like West Coast yeast strains, but just a bit of a cleaner profile on the beer. I don't need quite as much of that
1056.
Yeast.
Yep.
I don't need as much of that yeast fruitiness from in the beer.
That's totally fair. Here's a great question from Eric. Do the BC breweries have to be talked into exporting to Alberta, or are they looking to expand? Or is it a bit of a mix?
Some are actively, there's a bit of a mix, absolutely. Some are actively looking to expand their footprint, and so they'll come, one of two options, either come seek out an exporter, usually by reputation. They'll talk to a friend and say, oh, how are you getting to Alberta or BC or Ontario or wherever? And then there's a lot of word of mouth like that. Some aren't even thinking about it, and then an agency looking to expand their portfolio approaches them. It's like, hey, we really want to see your beer in Alberta, and then there'll be a whole different conversation. But a bit of both ways.
Nice. Craig asks, okay, so let's get this super nerdy. Where is the protein coming from? And Chad, who's a really great homebrewer here in town, did kick in an answer for that. But let's just kick it over to you as well. Where is the protein coming from?
So as I gently touched upon before, all that protein is just coming from in the grain when you're doing the mash. If you can be using a higher protein grain like wheat or oats, and that's then those that more solids are getting into the beer through that.
Would you do anything crazy like blend in a higher proportion of like 6-row barley for the higher protein content in that, or is it just easy to go with wheat and oats, or is it a completely different type of protein there?
That's a good question about the 6-row. Typically with brewers, you're using a lot of 2-row as your base. It's just a little bit cleaner.
Yes.
I haven't messed around with 6-row myself, so I couldn't answer that question fully. But a lot of breweries these days, it's going to be less expensive to have to source just one type of base malt for your 2-row. And so you do that, and then it's pretty easy to source some wheat or oats to add into it.
I was just thinking 6-row because it's a higher proportion of alpha and beta amylases for starch conversion in more complex grains like wheat or oats. So I was wondering if they might have used a little more of that. Also because it would have a little more protein to it, just by the pound than 2-row does. But you're right. I don't think anyone on earth would ever consider using 6-row as a base malt. It's really more a problem solver. Like, oh God, my mash bill is 35% wheat. I need something to convert this. So no, fair enough.
I need actual fermentables in this.
Yeah, I need actual fermentables in this, exactly. Otherwise it's a barley milkshake without anything that can actually be fermented.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so I'm going to briefly break here for a moment while I finish my high five and pour myself more high five because I really like this beer. And because my wrist hurts. But let's talk briefly about what we've got coming up for tastings in the next little while. Hopefully I'm on camera for all of this. We'll find out. So for wine tasting, this Friday night, we are doing our Beaujolais tasting. So we are doing 2 red Beaujolais, both are Beaujolais Village, one by Manoir de Cara and one by one of our in-house Beaujolais producers, Jean-Marc Bergaud, who does this label for his Beaujolais Red, and then this completely different label that I actually think is somehow worse, despite the fact they obviously spent way more money on it. So Beaujolais Blanc, which will be Chardonnay, Beaujolais Reds, which will be Gamay Rouge, and then finally Dominique Piron is another one of our house Beaujolais producers, makes some really, really top-end stuff, usually from single appellations. I think we have a Chénat and a Moulin Avant, or Cru Beaujolais. He makes a sparkling Cremant de Bourgogne, which is Chardonnay, Aligoté, and Gamay Noir, I believe is the blend. So we're tasting kind of red, white, and sparkling. I did a little bit of looking around for a Beaujolais Rosé for this one, and there were some options out there, but nothing I was like over the moon thrilled with, so I passed. Beer tasting next week, we are kind of doing a bit of a breweries we don't talk about enough sort of tasting. So we spend a lot of time talking about 88 and Establishment and Cabin because they have a new bloody seasonal seemingly every other week. They're top of mind for everybody. They have the biggest social media presence. They're what everybody wants to talk about all the time seemingly. But damn it, there's so many other really great breweries in Calgary. We've done a brewery profile tasting of Annex. We've tasted Zero Issue and definitely OT on the channel before. But somehow I don't think we've ever done like a last best yet. So we're going to do a Clairvoyant IPA from them, which is a yuzu fruit infused IPA, which I absolutely love. And it's a low alcohol at 4.52. I think just the packaging, this looks really, really sharp. Like on camera here with the light catching this looks great. But when you actually get it in the beer fridge next to everything else, it just seems to disappear, which is a tragedy because I really like this beer. Paradise Found, this is a ginger super Berliner, so a little bit of ginger sour from Annex. I find the can slightly disturbing, but no, that's neither here nor there.
Can you show that?
Yes, I can show the terrifying can of eldritch horror. But yeah, so we have that. From OT, I really like their OT 500, their standard hazy IPA. But for their anniversary, which just came out 3 weeks ago, they did a double IPA version of 500, which they, not desperately creatively called double 500. But that's really neat. And finally, the beer we sell the most of from Zero Issue, their Innsmouth Mango Passion Fruit Sour. So 4 beers, 4 different Calgary breweries, just something different. And no, I will not high five anything with my right hand. It is well and properly screwed. So what did I do? All right, fine. I've had enough beer. I'll talk about it. I was out for my morning bike ride. I try to do a high speed kind of west side loop every day. and I was coming through a construction zone, cut around a corner too fast, way too fast, hit a bunch of kind of loose and broken asphalt and gravel and things, and the back tire came out on me, and I don't actually remember going down. Didn't hit my head. There was no scuff on my helmet, but I must have put my right hand out to stop myself, and I bent the thumb back, apparently to the point where it touched my arm. And I peeled off a huge chunk of my upper thumb and had to get all that cut away. But yeah, I dislocated and broke the thumb. So I got a meeting with a hand surgeon tomorrow. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it was not good. It was a really bad Sunday. That's for any of you who speculated that we were hungover or we lost the keys Sunday. That's why we were closed. No, I was supposed to be on Sunday. This is why we were closed Sunday. That's why there was nobody here. So yeah, that happened. But yeah, let's. I'm going to be a minute getting caught up, but why don't you introduce us to our final beer here, the Play Dead IPA, which I do like that the Play Dead comes in a black can. I always quite liked that. When all the other ones are quite colorful and bright, the Play Dead, it's in a jet black can. I like that.
It's stark. It stands out. So yes, Play Dead is just a classic West Coast IPA. It is beautiful. If we're talking about hops, it's mostly mosaic, to my understanding. Sorry, pardon me, I'm going to cough. Pardon me. Crystal clear beer here. Bit of an increased hop bill. We're looking at, 75 IBUs, and that shines right through. You're getting a really crystal clear bitterness on it as well, and a fairly moderate fruit notes on it. Very classic West Coast flavor, and then a toasted malt bill as well on it.
No painkillers for me. They didn't even give me anything at the hospital, Chad. Bloody jerks. Doctors, right? I guess. But no, the beer is the painkiller tonight. And I'll just briefly whine about this. It's not even that painful. It's painful as hell if I bump it, but it's just always there and always just annoyingly painful. It sucks because it doesn't hurt enough that I really can feel justified in being whiny about it. It's always sore, and I hate it. It's just constantly on my mind. Anyway, please talk about the beer. I'm just being whiny.
No, yeah, I pretty much said I try to keep my tasting notes concise so that I'm not trying to put too many ideas in people's heads about tasting notes.
But I'm counting on you to fill time. Damn it.
In that case, I don't. How much more can I gush about this beer? It's just it's tough to find breweries these days that are making just it's coming back a little bit for breweries that are making actual West Coast IPAs.
Yeah, West Coast, best coast.
But these guys, these guys have been making it for pretty much since their inception there, and it's been one of their top selling brands the entire time. And it's just so crisp and clean, and when you can get it, I think that if people tasted more West Coast IPAs like this, there are a lot of people who have a prejudice against West Coast IPAs, but this is just so beautiful, and despite having huge hops, it's really, really drinkable.
And again, for the first time in a couple of years, you can really smell the malt bill here. It's actually balanced. It's got that darker color again.
Yeah, big citrus on that guy. A little bit of resin coming up on the back end as well.
Now, I mean this not as a slam against the Play Dead, but I'm actually going to come down, and this never happens. People who've watched a lot of these will tell you, I never pick the East Coast. I always say, oh, the West Coast is what I always like. I really respect the high five here, because I expected that the Play Dead, because it's the beer that I've actually bought the most of these, was going to be my favorite going in, but I got to say, full respect to the high five. That's a heck of an East Coast IPA, and I wasn't expecting that to be the case. I always pick the West Coast.
It's a real achievement for the high five.
This is still exactly my wheelhouse. So. And you're right, Craig. Pine resin right off the first moment, and pretty clean. Like, not, I don't know. I find that when an IPA it's just done a little bit off. The pine resin, it comes off chemically, and the grapefruit can come off almost like grapefruit concentrate, like, you know, Minute Maid concentrated frozen grapefruit juice. It can come off very artificial, especially if it's maybe a little older than it ought to be. This just comes off so fresh and so bright and so clean. And this is, it just takes me back, I don't know, 10, 15 years when I first started getting into IPAs. And yes, this is why I got into IPAs again. And it's like coming home to an old friend sort of thing.
Can I just say, I'll say that exact same thing. I've missed West Coast IPAs so much. I mean, as a trend, obviously I've been drinking this one the entire time. But,
yes, clearly. No, I can remember just bags and bags of, this is going way back, but tree hophead bottles in those weird, stupid brown bottles that only they used that looked like the old Michelob bottles.
Like not just, quite stubbies and like,
yeah, like the weird like triangular top and then the cylindrical bottle. It was a weird bloody bottle, and only Tree used them. But just at the time, I mean, yeah, there was just no IPAs that were consistently fresh. We got some cool stuff, like we get Rogue and we get Lagunitas. It was cool on release. I don't even want to know what you're doing, Aaron. I'm sure you're up to something. But yeah, I love these classic West Coast styles because they remind me of why I got into IPA in the first place. So I really like this. Yep. Deirdre says 3241. Possibly a Lethbridge Brewery tasting. Right now, Daryl at Spectrum doesn't have any beer to sell me, so I can't get his. So that would be purely just a theoretical beer tasting. I actually do need to reach out to Kelty and Chris at Theoretical and get a tasting lined up with them for fall. I would love to do a cross Lethbridge tasting with Daryl and Elaine as well. Right now I just can't. He's so busy. He's selling everything out the front door. He just doesn't have beer to sell me. So you will be able to get a Theoretically Brewing tasting with me and Kelty and hopefully Chris as well. Sometime in the next kind of 6-8 weeks. Yes, we will absolutely have that going on because we've got the Study Buddy and the honestly, shockingly, stunningly good K-Lime Margarita Sour on the shelves right now. So look for that. Spectrum, he's just too busy and doesn't know anything to sell me. So I would love to, but just not right now. But Theoretical coming up very, very shortly. Wow, we have darn near consensus, like 3241, 3412, 3241. A lot of people on 3, and I think rightly so. Now, I may have horribly unfairly biased them, but Mike is saying 2 with a bullet. But yeah, what about you? Where do you like these? What would be your ranking if you had to give one? And if you say, hey, guess what? I work for the importer and can't rank these. I completely understand that.
I mean, you can't ask me to pick my favorite children. As far as the ones that I drink the most, I probably drink the most High Five and then play Dead after that.
Okay.
But that's all I'll say. Those are the 2 I drink the most.
That's totally fair. Blockbridge. Blockbridge is out of Saskatchewan. They make great beer. I don't know if Blockbridge is still in Alberta. I know they were in Alberta and then they got pulled out of the market. But I've seen cans around, but they tend to be, when I see Blockbridge in like my friends' fridges, they tend to be friends who go to Saskatchewan or a family in Saskatchewan or from Saskatchewan. So I don't know if they're going back to get it or if it's actually something I can get. But you're right, we do need to do something with Blockbridge because their milk stout in particular is legend.
It looks like it is in stock right now. It looks like you can get some Blockbridge.
I can get some Blockbridge again? Okay, so it's back. Mm-hmm. Tall cans?
Yes.
Oh. Okay, then yes, Blockbridge is definitely... We haven't done a Saskatchewan tasting. We've done like so much stuff with BC to this point. We haven't done anything with Saskatchewan. Now, that might have something to do with the fact that Saskatchewan breweries I can name is Bushwhackers Brew Pub and Blockbridge is about it. And who?
Pile of Bones.
Oh, and Pile of Bones, pardon me. That's right, too. But yeah.
There's probably enough gas to do like Saskatchewan, Manitoba combined tasting, I think.
Yeah, but I can't get half pints, and half pints is the best of Manitoba. I love Dave Rudge. I used to drive out, so this is years and years ago. I drove out for the very first release of Sellout Stout And Dave Rudge was like so over the moon to have somebody who drove 12 hours for his like barrel-aged stout release that like I get to hang out with the guys there, and like I met a whole bunch of cool people in Winnipeg. And I carry around like a huge like place in my heart. Phil of Phil's Pills was literally the guy behind me in line at the sellout stout release, so I met Phil. I had an amazing time at Half Pints. I drove out for like the rare beer release I think 3 or 4 years in a row. Went to a couple of Jets games like the very first year they were out. Like no, I have a great relationship with Half Pints, but they haven't been in market in bloody forever. And yeah, I have no idea what they're even doing now. So a multinational in Saskatchewan is worth a look. Okay, multinational just as a pun is fantastic. Rebellion, Nokomis. Okay, so we have some options. All right, well, I think...
privately, I also did get a text from a friend who did want to note that there are more Ontario breweries than just Collective Arts and Burdock. Apparently that was said in the comments.
Oh, well, those are the only ones that count. No. No, there's also Flying Monkeys, who is very, very good and has been around for absolute donkey's years. But what other Ontario breweries would he like to particularly have mentioned?
I'm not sure what they're saying in the comments, but I think that Nickelbrook is around now, and Reinhard is also from Toronto, I think.
Okay.
Someone please correct me on that if I'm wrong. But yeah, there are a handful of Ontario breweries, and they're putting out some really cool stuff.
Okay. Might have to do Ontario. It would hurt me deep inside, but we might have to do Ontario. Well, I think we'll wrap up the formal part of the tasting here. And how can you get Ontario beer here? Well, we carry like everything Burdock here, and Burdock is okay. We've never done a Burdock tasting, probably never will on the channel because it'd be a $40 tasting, and I wouldn't make any money on it. Burdock beers they're kind of, I don't want to say, okay, screw it, I've had 4 beers. They are probably the most experimental, the wildest, the craziest of all the Canadian breweries. Half their beers are like a quarter Ontario Gewürztraminer. Like they come in only glass bottles. They only sell them by the single. The cheapest beer I have from them by miles is like a standard can of their like close to normal Saison at like $4.95. Like they are not cheap, but they're brilliant. I love Burdock stuff, but they don't ship hardly anything over. Like doing a tasting like this would pretty much take up all of the beer they sent to Alberta that month. So I don't know if you'd ever be able to do one, but I do really love Burdock. They are expensive, but by God, they're genius. I think we have 6 or 8 Burdock beers on the shelves in the singles right now, but Mike is saying we have 8. Mike would be the person who would know because he actually stocks that for us.
I also got a note from the same person saying Bellwoods, Bench, Bose, and I already said Blood Brothers. Yeah.
Somebody keeps emailing me about Bench. They're trying to sell me Bench, but they haven't sent me samples yet, so I don't know. Maybe it's good. I think that's you, isn't it?
No, Bench is not me. No.
Okay, good, okay.
No. That's the major competitor, if I'm to be honest.
Oh, okay, well, no. Heck with them then.
They're friends, whatever.
How do we get more Ontario beers here? I miss lots and lots of the very good beers they used to be able to get. 2 answers to that. First off, with the explosion of like craft brewing here in Alberta, I think that a lot of importers, I think even you might be the perfect person to speak to this, it's probably gotten a lot more challenging to be a beer importer into Alberta when you can bring out a seasonal month, which as an importer is a massive amount of work and takes huge logistical effort, and yet local breweries can put out 2 new beers a week and push you kind of down to the bottom of people's minds very quickly. I imagine the importing beer game is very challenging when the Alberta scene is this strong.
Yeah, the local game is certainly getting strong. Fortunately, though, it does seem that Alberta does want to drink good beer out of other places as well. Fortunately for Yellow Dog and Four Winds and all of our breweries. What we did have to react to a change probably about a year ago. You and I were talking off camera. We used to do a handful of U.S. and a few Eastern Canada breweries as well that we decided to just stop working with because of the way that the market was trending. And also, to take a little bit longer to get the stuff up in the U.S. particularly. Yeah,
and I think that's a good sign of a healthy local scene, is that the local scene will take over to a point. But we saw, like, in 2 years, we saw Alberta become entirely import dependent to almost rejecting imports to just a ludicrous degree and an unfair degree, because honestly, they deserved better. And wow, Julie is like all about the Ontario beers here. I'm absolutely loving this. She's listed like last seconds on Earth: Royal City, Elora, Bellwoods, Fairweather, Merritt, Dominion City, Leftfield. Oh wow, yeah, okay.
I think of those we only get 2 in Alberta presently, maybe 3
of those.
But yeah, there are 3 of those. The Reinhardt and the Bellwoods, I think I heard, are the 2 that are currently coming in.
Cool. All right, well, I think
Not
we'll
to
wrap it up
reach,
there
I know,
then.
from a friend.
Thank you, Grant. I really appreciate your time. You have a wonderful evening, and
welcome.
we will see you around, I'm sure. It won't be your only visit. I'm sure we will be in A, much more prepared next time, and B, you know, perhaps in a little better spirits. And thank you very much again for doing this. You have a wonderful night. We'll see you later.
Thanks for having me.
Take care.
Cheers.
Really appreciate him coming in, and thank you all for joining us here. It's been a bit of an unconventional one, but that's getting to be a little bit of a tradition around here. So yeah, I'm Kyle with Andrew Hilton Wine and Spirits. Thank you all for coming out and joining us again tonight. We will have our underappreciated Calgary breweries coming up next week with Last Best, Zero Issue, Annex, and the truly unappreciated one that I apparently forgot about, OT Brewing. So that's in 1 week. So unless you're coming out for the wine tasting on Friday night, which I encourage you to do, I will see you in a week. Otherwise, I'll see you in 2 days. Thank you very much, and goodbye.